Alpha Cruz is a ministry. So this is a space we are creating for parents, mainly parents and individuals with disabilities, or anyone in the field who is interested to be a part of this uh, group. And so I don't want to. We should start in a timely manner. This is the first webinar in the series, and those of you who do not know about Alpha Cross's ministry, you can get more details by following the link at the end of the seminar. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pavan John Anthony. I'm a professor of special education at Adelphi University in New York. I've been teaching at Adelphi for over 17 years in the field of special ed. One of the main reasons this topic was selected is because it's important for any parent or anyone involved in special education to understand the basic needs of anyone who has a disability, or if your child even has developmental delays, another terminology used early on in childhood for a newborn baby or a young child who has developmental delays. They are eligible for services, and it's very common. And I have met several parents on a regular basis who do not know how to move forward, or how to seek support, especially in the school system. So let's jump directly into the topic itself. It's a big topic we are compressing into 30 minutes, and again, you're welcome to ask questions at the end, and we will also share our email and contact information to ask any questions. So, first of all, you have to understand, as a parent uh, or someone working with people with disabilities, uh, you have a lot of rights. The three big disability legislation that protect individuals with disabilities in this country are Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, uh, which many of you are familiar with. Then you have the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and also the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it's important. It's very important for parents to know what these laws are, and what my child is eligible for, and how can they get services. So who is eligible for services under IDEA? So um, uh, anyone, students who demonstrate, or students who have a disability, and if their disability affects their educational performance and requires specialized instruction. In other words, if any of you in this room, or anyone who has a child who has any sort of difficulty with the learning, in other words, if the disability affects the educational performance of a child, they are eligible for services under IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. IDEA covers children all the way from birth to 3. In this specific one, those of you who have school-age children, children from the age of 3 to 21 are covered under IDEA. Remember, in some states, uh, uh, um, beyond age 21, there is also coverage, which we will talk in a bit. But again, remember this definition. If your child's disability affects educational performance, in other words, sitting in a class, the child is struggling with taking out notes when the teacher is talking, or when the child looks at the cannot copy things from the board to a notebook or a computer. A child struggles with the lighting in the room, sounds in the room, again, if the educational performance is affected due to the disability, they are covered under IDEA. A simple example would be um, someone who uses a wheelchair. They have a physical disability, and the person moves around and goes around everywhere, very social, interacts with everybody, and has a lot of friends. My question to all of you, and he gets a 4.0 GPA. He gets A in all subjects. My question to all of you, is that person eligible for services under IDEA? Anybody? The person has a physical disability, cannot use lower limbs, uses a wheelchair, but he or she is very social and um, gets A in all the classes. Is the person eligible for services under IDEA?
Can you define education now then? Because if education is just academic performance, I don't think they are, but I would define education as a holistic development of mind, body, and soul. So,
Perfect. Thanks, Nicholas. That's right. If education is for the basic education in schools, that what I'm referring to, and Nico already answered, then they are not eligible. You are correct. The child or the person is not eligible for services under IDEA because their educational performance is affected. But the person has a physical disability. So that leads to our next section. Students not eligible for services under IDEA, they may receive services under Section 504 of the Vocational Rehabilitation Act. Or you might, some of you who are parents or care providers or professionals, you might have heard 504. So someone whose educational performance is not affected, um, they are eligible for services under 504. Remember, 504 covers many more students than IDEA. Students not included in IDEA includes gifted and talented. Again, gift a child in sixth or seventh grade able to perform, read or write, do math at 11th or 12th grade. They are gifted or talented. Children with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, they are covered under 504. At risk for school failure, which means they do not have a disability, but they are at the risk of failing in classes. So they cannot be classified as a person with disability, but again, uh, they are at risk for school failure, which can also they can get services under section 504. So IDEA, if any of you in this platform, if you have a child with disability, they are eligible for services all the way from 3 to 21. IDEA also covers children from birth to 3. If you have a young child from birth to 3, they are eligible for services under the federal law. There is child find which exists in all communities, and a plan is developed for children called IFSP, Individualized Family Service Plan. If the child is 3 to 21, or in some cases 4 or 5 to 21, they are again covered under IDEA, and the plan developed for these children are called IEP, which stands for Individualized Education Program, which is reviewed every year. So what are some of the major tenets of IDEA? The first one is zero reject. This, again, no child can be denied a free appropriate public education to their local public school. So if you live in a neighborhood and you are being told you cannot, the school cannot say your child cannot receive education in the local school because of a disability, it's against the law. If and they have to find an alternative, say they found a school in the nearby school district, and say the child you have has problems with vision, hearing, and multiple disabilities. The school might say the neighboring school has a vision specialist, or the neighboring school has a swimming pool where you can wheel the wheelchair into the pool. A lot more facilities that would benefit that child. Then it's up to the parent if they would accept that admission into the local school. The key is, as a parent, again, you have the right to deny that and seek admission in a different school if you prefer that. But again, you should have the reasons. If the school offers in a neighboring school district, your local public school or your local school has to pay for transportation and all other services incurred in that school. The second one is free appropriate public education. Every child who has a disability is eligible for free appropriate public education till the age of 21. In some state, the transition age has changed, and in some states, depending upon which state you are in, there is 22 and 23 in some stages, and in some states there is also 24. So it varies from different states. Then there is least restrictive environment. It's the right of your child. Any parent, if you have a child with disabilities, your child's right to be with his or her peers to the maximum extent possible. In other words, if my child has a disability, they cannot say, oh, we are going to put him in a special classroom all the time, segregated in a separate classroom. It's my right to be with all my peers to the max. Three words. Remember these words: maximum extent possible. When my peers are having lunch, when they are having science class, math class, social studies class, any subjects, it's my child's right to be with their peers to the maximum extent possible. In some cases, that maximum extent might be 30 minutes, 15 minutes. It varies significantly. Sometimes my child's behavior is so severe, or if my child becomes a threat to other students in the classroom, I might be pulled out. So it varies significantly. The next one is non-discriminatory evaluation. When your child is evaluated for special education services, you need to make sure there is no discrimination is happening. It's your right, basic right for your child to be evaluated in their native language. Simple example. Parents have the full right to confidentiality. Um, Teachers cannot just use your names, your child's names, or any of the records in public. Procedural safeguards. The schools have to inform all of you as parents about your rights. What are the basic steps involved in special education? How to deal with disputes? How do we go about it? All the steps. Um, IDEA includes provision for children from birth to age 5, as I mentioned, and some cases 3. Federal law does not always require special education services for children birth to 2 years. As professionals, we do not say a newborn has a disability. Usually, the term used is developmental delays. The child might walk at a later age, talk at a later age, or do things at a later age. Um, you might also hear the word related services. Related services include speech language pathology, interpreting services, or PT, OT,